Now we turn our attention to a matter which we started off yesterday. It's got to do with security. What are we doing about the spate of kidnapping? Even this morning we had another report in Kaduna. Well, we're joined now by Shotonye Wakama, who is the Deputy Inspector General of Police Operations. Morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, first and foremost, is there any latest information about the monarchs who were kidnapped in the southeast?
Yes, again, unfortunately, these things are reoccurring, particularly in the southeast and the south-south. We do have some intelligence on the particular incident, and we are working on it. You will forgive me if I do not go into too many details about it, because it will compromise our operations. But I'm pretty sure that within a few days, perhaps 2 or 3 days, we'll be able to resolve that.
It's good to know that the police is working on that. But tell us the kind of protection, because these are endangered, species. It would seem that the target is now on traditional rulers. Doesn't that worry you?
Well, it does worry us, and as a matter of fact, it was an issue that in our last conference we raised. But Chamberlain, let me say this. Traditional rulers are high-profile targets, yes, but they're not necessarily the only persons who are getting kidnapped, and it's a concern for the police when it... sorry, I'm getting echo, so it's confusing me a bit. Anybody who is kidnapped is a concern to the police. The traditional rulers and some other persons are high-profile targets. We appreciate that. But we have put in measures to at least give them a little protection. And we would also advise traditional rulers that in the case of, for instance, Delta, the person, as I said, made himself in a way, it was advantageous to the kidnappers, let me put it that way. I would expect that a traditional ruler, particularly of that high caliber, would not be moving around alone and things like that, and being, in a position where he would not ordinarily easily be taken away by these criminals.
We understand that before such crimes occur, there must be an opportunity, and there must also be a willing person who would want to latch on that kind of opportunity. What are those things that you see that is lacking around the traditional institution or palaces that you would want to see taken care of?
Well, as a traditional ruler, I would expect that there are certain ethics, if you like, that you would keep to, that the traditional institution requires. But for the police, what we decided to do is, we have our safer highway patrols, for instance, and we have divisions around those areas. So we've instructed our men to put some form of security around these institutions and their persons. We probably will not be able to cover every single traditional ruler, but the prominent ones, or those who are more exposed to this sort of activity, are the ones we're going to, at least initially, try and give some of this protection to.
From your preliminary investigation, does it look like we have some syndicate working on this?
Kidnapping itself is a syndicated crime, and you have so many, ladders on the, so many rungs on the ladder, as it were. You have those who scope for persons who are, in quotes, suitable to be kidnapped. You have those who surveil such persons. You have those who actually execute the crime, those who feed them, who provide, safe houses, as it were, and those who do the negotiation and things like that. So it's a syndicated crime. It does involve, at the top end of the rung, it does involve persons whom you would otherwise refer to as educated persons, and you wouldn't have believed they would be involved in this sort of thing. But lower down the rungs, of course, they use those who are easily accessible because of lack of employment and things like that. So that is being targeted at traditional rulers at this moment is probably because in the mindset of these people, they feel that once a traditional ruler is kidnapped, there is a greater likelihood of getting ransom from such a high-profile personality.
Now, what we're being told about ransom, the police has told people not to pay ransom, but we understand that people are still paying. Is that the case?
Well, you know, the advice we give is if you continue to pay, if you continue to pay ransom, of course you're going to engender more kidnappings, because I mean it's as if it's a business they're making profit. If you don't pay ransom, on the other hand, of course it becomes a non-viable enterprise, if you will. But you know, it's you have to be involved in this issue before you can decide exactly what you would want to do. If a friend of yours, or indeed a relative of yours, is kidnapped, it's a sort of crime that traumatizes both the kidnappers and the friends and relatives of the kidnappers. And you will always have people advising, look, let's just do this thing before something worse happens to the person, you know, so they would want to pay or one thing or the other. But in truth, the best practice is not to pay.
Okay, but as you rightly said, people are always afraid as to what could happen to that person. For instance, the monarch of Ubuluku, we saw what happened eventually. Can you give us any update on the kidnap of the sister of the governor of Bayelsa State?
Well, at this point, what I can say is that the Bayelsa State governor's relative still appears to be in the hands of the kidnappers. One of the problems with a place like Bayelsa State, as you well know, is, you know, the terrain. It's quite a difficult terrain to maneuver, and even where you know where the kidnapped person is, sometimes if you go in there blind, you'll probably create a worse situation than you probably wanted to. So we're working on that. We do have quite a bit of intelligence, both from the state government side and from our, you know, personnel on the ground as to where they are geographically. But assessing that place is a bit of a problem.
Considering how long it's taken, it's been over 45 days now, if we're to count properly. Do you think that this provides an incentive for people not to pay ransom?
Well, my thoughts on the issue would be entirely subjective on this issue. I've already stated, as a professional, I would advise do not pay. Whether it constitutes an incentive, the length of time that the person is kidnapped or not, is anybody's, you know, determination. But I would stick by do not pay any ransom.